My topic will be how to make your storytelling exciting. This is part 3 of the World of Storytelling tip. Remember in my second video on how to own your story, I was talking about telling your story in your own words. When I say your own words, I mean two: the verbal text and non-verbal text. The verbal text is of course the words that we say, like the sun, the moon, the stars, what I'm doing now. Those are words that we say. They are the verbal text. The non-verbal text are words that we express in different ways, like in gestures, in symbols, or words that we act out. One day, a boy was walking in the park. Somebody's calling him from afar. Alberto! Alberto! So the words he heard a voice, I used gesture of putting my hand on my ear instead of saying it. Now, let's continue. Oh, it was his friend Jimmy. He was bringing a ball. So the words, he turned to where the voice came from. I just used the gesture. But I was still understood. I was able to bring the message by using that gesture. In that way, I was able to use less words. Remember, less is, that's right, less is more. Gestures can also be used to solicit audience participation. The audience can supply the words that you act out. One day, a boy was, yes, walking in the park. Then he heard a voice calling him, Alberto, Alberto. Then he looked to his right, and it was Jimmy bringing a ball. In that way, you will be telling the story with your audience together. There are storytelling gestures that are popularly used, such as trees, sun, waves, quiet. Those are the only ones that I know because I just make my own. You can also make your own provided you make an orientation prior your storytelling. That is, if you have so much time, like you have the whole class period, but you have to limit the symbols that you want the children or audience to participate. Maybe 5 to 6. More than that is too much. For example, when I tell a story and I want you to participate with me. When I show you this, you say sun. And when I show you this, you say moon. And when I do this, you say stars. And when I do this, you say separate. Okay, now let's begin. Long time ago, the sun and the moon, they were a couple. The sun and the moon decided that they have to separate. The sun will show during the day and the moon will show during the night with her children, that's right, the stars. So you're actively involving the listeners is one way to make your story exciting using nonverbal text. Other expression of nonverbal text can be sound, like that was the only thing you can hear during the night. Meow, meow. The cat wailed loudly, and she was surprised. And then she walked slowly. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. It was the clock. It was midnight. Then she was embraced with a cold wind. Pluck, 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 pluck. The window was open, and she closed the window hurriedly. Wah! Wah! She heard her daughter cry, and she hurriedly went inside her room. What is it? There, I see something moving. She rushed to look at it, and meow, meow. And so that is an example of nonverbal text using sound. The most common sounds that we can explore are sounds of nature like thunder, lightning, wind, and rain. So before the storytelling, you can make an agreement with your listeners to involve them in your storytelling. That when you do this, they will create a sound of thunder. So when you do this, they will say, boom. And when you do this, shh, they can create the sound of lightning. So, shh. And when you do this, they will create the sound of the wind. So, shh, shh. And when you do this, the audience or listeners will follow, and they're creating the sound of the rain. So then you start your storytelling by, one day there was, yes, thunder, and then lightning, and then the wind, and came the rain. And then you continue with your storytelling. Another technique that I am using is a theater exercise that I learned from my director, Nestor Orfilia. These are text before gesture, gesture before text, or text and gesture together. We use this technique for emphasis of the situation or the image or even the emotion. Text before gesture. Long time ago, the sun and the moon, they were a couple. The sun was the husband and the moon was the wife. They had a child. Tulog na langga, langga ni nanay. During that time, the child doesn't have a name yet. Tulog na anak, anak na kong gamay. Now let's do gesture before text. Long time ago, the sun and the moon, they were a couple. The sun was the husband and the moon was a wife. Tulog na langga, langga ni nanay. They had a child, and during that time, the child doesn't have a name yet. Or you can use the third technique of text and gesture together. Long time ago, the sun and the moon, they were a couple. The sun was the husband and the moon was a wife. They had a child, and during that time, the child doesn't have a name yet. Or you can make a combination. Long time ago, the sun and the moon, they were a couple. The sun was the husband, the moon was the wife. Tulog na langga, langga ni nanay. They had a child. Tulog na anak. And during that time, the child doesn't have a name yet. Anak na kong gamay. At first, when you're doing all those techniques, you find it very uncomfortable and sometimes you make mistakes, but it's all right. That's why you really have to practice, practice, practice. There are so many things in the verbal and non-verbal text, and text before gesture, gesture before text, and text and gesture together, and sounds that you can explore. Remember what we learned from the second video? Creativity is the key word. Let our imagination work. There is 1001 to subdue a cat until it loses its breath. What I'm giving you is just, tickle your imagination, because I know you are so creative and you can explore so many things. And I hope what I shared will be helpful to all of you. So please, please inspire me. Don't forget, subscribe, hit that bell for notification of new uploads. Thank you for listening.